This is video 5.1.5, and the goal is to talk about solving multivariable equations. Let's take a look at what this looks like in action. So here we have example 1. Solve 2y minus 3x equals 12 for y. So what does that mean? What is the goal? Well, the goal is to find what it equals. And by it, I'm talking about x or y. So for this problem, I'm talking about y because it says solve for y. That's the it of this problem. So my goal is to find out what y equals. Now I have to work on doing that for this equation. The answer will look like y equals something. So my goal is to get y equals something in this equation. So taking a look at the problem, I have to get the y alone. So I have 2y minus 3x. So to get the 2y alone, I add 3x's to both sides because that will create a 0 and leave 2y alone. Now I'll have 12 plus 3x on the right. Now remember, my goal is to get y equals. So now I have to divide both sides by 2 because this says 2y and I want 1y. So I divide by 2 because it makes 1y. And what I do on the left, I have to do it on the right. So the left side is y. The right side, everything gets divided by 2. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. Plus 3x divided by 2. So now I have to do 3x divided by 2. Well, that's 1.5x because 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. And that was the number of x's I was dividing. So 1.5x. That is actually the answer. Y equals 6 plus 1.5x. That's the solution to this problem. So keep an eye on the goal, and I think you will be able to solve these just like you've solved every other equation this year. Let's take a look at example 2. This one says solve for x. So my goal is to get x equals something. So now I look at the equation, I see 5x minus 6y equals 14. So I need to get the 5x's alone by adding 6y's to both sides because minus 6y plus 6y makes a 0. Now I'll have 5x's alone on the left, and on the right, 14 plus 6y. At this point, I have the 5x's alone, but remember, I want x equals, not 5x equals. So at this point, I divide by 5. This is because 5x divided by 5 is 1x, and that's what I want, 1x. So I'm going to divide by 5 on the left, and that gives me x, and on the right, I have to do the same thing. So everything has to get divided by 5. So I start with 14 divided by 5 to get 2.8. And then I do 6y divided by 5. And 6y divided by 5 is the same idea as doing 6 divided by 5, which gives me an answer of 1.2. So that's how many y's. So it's 1.2 y's is part of my answer. So 2.8 plus 1.2y is the answer for x in this example. So now let's take a look at example 3. There's a lot more variables in this one, but it's the same exact idea. Now we're doing 3a minus b equals 2m, and we're solving for b. So we start with thinking about where b is and trying to get the b alone, because we want b equals something. So it starts with getting rid of the 3a's. I do that by putting a negative 3a's on both sides, because 3a and negative 3a make a 0. What I'm left with is negative b. Don't lose that negative on the b. That's very important not to lose that. On the right, I have 2m minus 3a. I can't actually do that subtraction, so just copy everything down. Now I see I have negative b, but I want regular b. We could also think of this as the opposite of b, equals 2m minus 3a. So I need to get rid of that negative sign in front. I don't want that. I want just b. So how do we do that? Well, let's think of this minus in front as a negative 1, because that's how many b's are there, negative 1b. Remember, when there's no number in front of a variable, that means there's one of them. So this is negative one of them. So now I'm going to divide, just like I've done in the last problems, divide both sides by negative 1. That will give me 1b, because negative 1 divided by negative 1 is b. On the right, 2m divided by negative 1 is negative 2m. Dividing by negative 1 just basically flips the numbers from positive to negative or negative to positive. So this will be an easy division for me. I get negative 2m, and then I do negative 3a divided by 3. And when I do that, I get 3a. because a negative divided by negative is a positive. So one other way to think about this is one big flip. Remember how it was negative b, or the opposite of b? So I flipped to the opposite of negative b, which is positive b, and everything on the right also flips. The 2m to negative, the 3a to positive. We flipped. That's another way to think of this, and maybe you've heard me say that already this year. So here's your solution for this problem. Now we're going to look at example 4. Example 4, the goal is to solve for a. So notice it's the exact same equation, but now we're solving for a. We're getting the a alone. So we have 3a minus b equals 2m. So to get a alone, we start with adding b's, so that we have 3 a's left over on the left, and on the right we have 2m plus b. Now I have to get 1a instead of 3a's, so I'm going to divide everything by 3, because 3 divided by 3 is 1. Now I do that on the right, divide everything by 3. In this example, I'm going to show you 3 proper ways to write these answers, and 3 ways you might see it on a multiple choice test, or you might see your teachers or fellow students writing the answers. So one correct way to write the answer is exactly as you see it right now, 2m plus b over 3. That's fine. You can write it that way. That is the correct solution. One other way to do it is to not actually write the decimals. Remember how we have to do 2m divided by 3, and we punch into our calculator 2 divided by 3? Well, we could just leave it as 2 over 3. That's division times m. So 2/3 m. And b divided by 3, well, that's just b divided by 3 is simply just 1b divided by 3, or 1 divided by 3. So we could leave that as 1 over 3b. That's a second correct way to write the answer. The third correct way to write the answer is to find the decimals. 2 divided by 3 is 0.6 repeating, m, and 1 divided by 3 is 0.3 repeating, b. So these are 3 correct solutions for example 4. So don't be afraid to try writing it in any of these 3 ways. So if you're not great with decimals, you can leave it as a fraction problem just like you see here or here. Those will be correct right now. And we'll talk about which form we want in the long run, but all 3 of these are correct answers. So now it's your turn to try these next set of problems. Pay close attention to what you're solving for and what your goal is when you do that. When you're finished solving the problems, then you're going to answer these checkpoint questions. So you'll want to check on the Google form, which is on the website where you found this video. So after you finish these 14 problems, then you're going to go on and submit 3 answers to 3 new questions. So be prepared to do that after you finish the worksheet. Good luck, and be sure to ask your teacher lots of questions.